Took a really long time to put this bow tie on for this, so you better appreciate it. Hello. Hello. That's a really bad start. If you're sitting at the back and you've already started drinking beer, get involved. So, before I begin my presentation, I have to give an obligatory health and safety warning. I do this at the beginning of every presentation. Please don't download the viruses that I'm going to show you during this talk. Frankly, it would be awkward. As I like to phrase it, please practice safe hex. You have to say that really carefully, by the way. If you haven't come across me before, my name is James Lyne, and I'm the Director of Technology Strategy at SOPHOS. A pretty good summary of my career thus far follows on this slide. It's a bit of a linear process here. It's actually more cyclical. Every once in a while, I kind of grow out the ginger afro. Rumor has it, as it grows longer, my ability to reverse engineer malicious code grows too. So today, my talk is about malware. Malicious code designed to do everything from stealing data to the theft of billions of dollars, to increasingly even targeting physical infrastructure, critical national infrastructure like power grids. But let me give you a snapshot of what's happening right now on the internet at large. Today, every second, 8 new users are joining the internet. Today in SOPHOS Labs, we'll see 250,000 individual new pieces of malicious code. We'll see 30,000 new infected websites. A new infected website every couple of seconds, and 80% of them small businesses distributing malware. Now it's kind of funny. It kind of breaks the image that most of us have of how malware gets distributed. What's the first question that you tend to overhear IT people asking when they find someone with a laptop that's infected? Which porn site did you go to? Clearly personal experience here. Well, let me tell you this. Statistically speaking, if you left this room and only browsed pornography for the rest of your lives, aside from the psychological impact, you would actually be safer. People normally write that down. Yeah, he said it's fine, honey, don't worry about it. 80% from small businesses. So I want to explore this theme of malicious code and how it gets distributed. I've broken my clicker, which is always a bad start. So with all this huge volume of malicious code, how's it kind of being generated? I mean, what are the cyber criminals doing to make so much? I mean, there can't be kind of thousands of people sat there making all these pieces of malware individually. You've heard a lot about the cloud from Gerhard and others. And the cyber criminals have adopted it too. Hacking as a service. This notion that you can go and pay a cyber criminal gang to deploy malicious code for you. And it's beautiful. Some of them now even have advertising videos. Right? They've got competitive analysis, pricing. And I want to share with you one of my favorite adverts for a cyber criminal who will knock competitors' websites offline. And just a pro tip, look at the hair.
So you're here for one reason. And that reason is because you need your business competitors, rivals, haters, or whatever the reason is, or who they are to go down. Well, you, my friend, you've came to the right place. If you want your business competitors to go down, well, they can. If you want your rivals to go offline, well, they will. Not only that, we are providing a short-term to long-term DDoS service or scheduled attacks, starting $5 per hour for small personal websites to $10 to $50 per hour for huge DDoS.
He goes on to talk about how they have 4 years of DDoSing experience. It's like every product marketing video ever, isn't it? It's fantastic and very impressive hair. Now, I know that this service works. I borrowed Gerhard's credit card, sorry about that, and paid this guy to attack my own website. It turns out expensing that is a bit of a problem at SOPHOS, but regardless. These services make it trivial for anyone to get access to high-quality malicious code and attack tools. And this is just one of many. In fact, there's a whole ecosystem of products now. Let me introduce you to quality assurance for malware authors in the cloud. You see, virus writers have to worry about the quality of their viruses as well. You don't want to release a substandard virus that's going to get detected. So this service enables the cybercriminals to trivially upload their malicious code and check that it works. They even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, right? So if your malware is detected too quickly, you get your money back. This theme continues with the likes of the Black Hole Exploit Pack. This is the market leader in the distribution of malware, responsible for nearly 1/3 of global malware distribution over the last couple of quarters. This toolkit makes it a point-and-click operation to infect hundreds of thousands of systems. Now, you can buy this for between $700 and $2,000, depending on which version you go for. They do offer an evaluation, so you can try it for 30 days, see if you like stealing people's data, get used to being a cybercriminal first, and they do actually have technical support. So you can email the cybercriminals and they'll give you tips on how to set up your illegal hacking server. Very impressive infrastructure. So let me show you what a couple of modern attacks look like today. In order to do this, I've got two virtual systems. On the left here, my attacker, which I've made to look like the Matrix, because that's what attackers always look like. I'm assuming you're all like me. You've all bought the Blu-ray versions of the Matrix movie. Yes, the high resolution, so you could freeze frame through the bits where they're typing on the keyboard and see what they were writing.
Yeah.
It's at least one of you, maybe. I don't know. I'm hoping there's a large collection of you that come over later and own up to this. We'll start a film club. Anyway, on the other side, we have our victim, which is our poor, vulnerable Windows client. Oh, in fact, can we have an R for Windows? Oh, that's delightful. Okay, I want to show you two variants of attacks at the moment. So what I'm going to do is bring up my systems here. Now, I will warn you, there's about a 1 in 63,002 chance that all of these demonstrations are going to go smoothly. In the event anything goes wrong, I will distract you by singing the Canadian national anthem, which I learnt off Wikipedia very recently, more than just the first line. If it works, a bit of audience participation, if you could all go, ooh, okay? Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're going to have a run through. Okay, so on 3, the most fake ooh you've ever given. Okay? Imagine you've just watched a Kaspersky sales presentation. So, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Harmoniously fake. Delicious. Okay, what I have here is what looks like a USB key. This is actually a little utility I bought off eBay for $30. It's a keyboard, a brilliant bit of attack kit. It's pre-programmed to write out some malicious code. So we're going to launch attack against these systems by getting someone to plug in the USB key. Now, there are many ways you can do this. My personal preference is to look slightly awkward and pathetic at people until they kind of cave and plug it in. Imagine the following. I come to your office, and on the way in, wearing a badly fitting suit, bow tie is optional, holding a large cup of coffee, I trip and pour coffee all over myself and all over my papers. I walk up to the receptionist, maybe a slight tear, if I could manage it. I say, I've got an interview in 10 minutes. Can you print me another one of my resumes, please? And then just stare awkwardly for a really long time, like this, until you feel so uncomfortable that you want to do anything to stop this. Is it working? Yes, excellent. I tried it on Mike the other day. He just stared straight back at me lovingly. It was very bizarre. Anyway, So that's how we get someone to run it, and there are many others. So let's plug this device in to my little Windows system here. Here we go. I'll put this over here. Windows is complaining about not being genuine because it can't get to the internet, but we don't really want to infect Microsoft. That would be rude. Here we go. Notice, as soon as I plug this in, the attack begins. This would normally happen in less than a second, but showing you something invisible is really quite boring. So I've kind of slowed it down for dramatic effect, slow motion mode. This is typing out the malicious code. What's brilliant about this is it's not a USB key. It's not a file that's being created. As far as the computer is concerned, it's the user typing out instructions. It bypasses the majority of security controls that we've depended upon for the past 20+ years. If we switch over here, you'll see a very cool matrix-looking prompt. This is basically a backdoor into the computer. From the other side of the world, anyone can now control this computer completely. You can turn on the webcam, which is kind of awkward because there's a couple of things people do when no one is watching them that I can't really talk about on the stage. You get the idea. I'm obviously talking about nose picking. Anyway, to give you a sense of this, I can launch programs. So I could type, for example, calc.exe, my favorite Windows program. I was going to launch Excel, but it seems to kind of take up all the computer's resources for about 15 years, so had to go for something a little more lightweight. So this is kind of a targeted attack, a very clever piece of kit available for only 30 euros. Let's look at a more mainstream attack here. What I prepared earlier was a very standard website. I was a little jet-lagged from Thailand, so I apologize for the fact it contains roses made out of bacon. I don't really know how to explain that. But what's interesting about this website is it's vulnerable in all the same ways most people's websites are on the internet. I've made all the same coding errors. And you might notice a function down here that's very popular on the web, the ability to leave comments. So I can post a little comment to this website. Here we go. It'll be posted shortly. And if I refresh the page, you can see that it was posted in the website here. Very common indeed. What we're going to do is abuse this website, take advantage of poor coding standards. And I'm going to paste in a little script with the name Evil Hacker. They don't always do that, but sometimes they do, and it's quite funny. Okay, I'll post the query. Don't worry too much about the details. The idea is simple. When we visit this website again, we'll be redirected off to some nasty malicious code that's going to attack the computer. This happens about every second on the internet at large. So let's bring up Internet Explorer. Does work on Firefox, by the way. I like the web browser Telnet. There's never actually been a vulnerability for it. It's quite spectacular. So here we go. Notice immediately the website has redirected actually to the funniest web address on the internet, microshaft.com. Brilliant. And the browser crashes. What we see here is fake antivirus, a concept that no doubt you'll all be familiar with. What's really interesting about this scan is that it's so fast, it's almost like it's doing nothing. Some pretty impressive performance here. If I go to my update settings or firewall, all the standard functions we'd expect, as soon as I turn one of them on, it forces me to register the product. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of liked it better when viruses were free. People now seem to pay the cybercriminals money to have their data stolen, which is quite an impressive business model. This particular gang that generated this sample was actually arrested by the FBI, having accumulated $96 million. So a pretty impressive pay for all of these cybercriminals here. Okay, now, I've kind of shown you how you could launch a calculator. I want to make this real. Imagine that you are the victim of the world's first targeted attack like this. Imagine that it's 2004 and the back orifice malware, this one here, is running rampant on the internet. Imagine you're sat in your bedroom and all of a sudden a message comes up that says, "Hi, I know we haven't talked before. This is your computer. See, I'm seeing everything in your room. I thought I'd throw you a few pointers. First, put a shirt on, please." Probably start to panic, right? Second, you've got a nice girl lying there on the bed and you're sitting like a goon looking at the computer. Come on. Now imagine you have a webcam. I imagine your face might look a lot like this. The world's first victim of this kind of attack. That's actually him. And it's published on the World Wide Web for notoriety. So this kind of shows you the power that modern cybercriminals have with these backdoors. All right, I want to take a little detour here. I don't want to do that thing where I just talk about malware and how bad it is. I want to talk to you about hacking hackers, reversing the trend. Because most of us never get to come into contact with one of these cybercriminals. How many people here use Dropbox, SkyDrive, something similar? Well, it turns out the cybercriminals do too. And on this particular occasion, the cybercriminals uploaded a backup of their computer's documents to an unprotected directory on the web, so we could look at it. What you can see here is two sections of source code. Don't worry about the kind of technical details. The top one is a script that sends a text message to the cybercriminals every day, telling them how much money they've made. A kind of cybercriminal billings report, if you will. What's obviously interesting about this is these are mobile telephone numbers for hackers. So you can imagine the excitement in the labs. We're like, let's call them up. I know what you did last summer. I know where you live. I mean, you could have so much fun with it. It got ridiculous. We then obviously kind of calmed down, got a bit more serious. Notice as well, in this other section, highlighted in red, there's a username, kind of like James Lyne. This guy's called Leded. How many people here use internet dating? No one ever owns up to that. You liars. I'm waiting for the one guy to go. It's like when you say, has anyone got the password, password 1, and before someone thinks, they go. Interestingly, if you go onto internet dating sites, where I spent a substantial amount of time researching, for research, legitimately, if you download people's profile pictures, about 60% contain the GPS coordinates of where the photo was taken. And beautifully, our cybercriminals did the same. Here is a photo that they uploaded to their backup, and that's the GPS coordinates of their nice office in the middle of St. Petersburg. If we then deploy the incredibly advanced hacking tool, Google, and we search with these details, we find two things. On the left, you'll see an advert for the sale of a BMW, which makes sense. I mean, cybercriminals would drive BMWs. It's kind of the done thing. The other one's a bit more weird. He's selling some Sphinx kittens. Hardened cybercriminal Sphinx kittens. It's not really what you expect. More advanced hacking, the use of Google, and that's the cybercriminal. That's him on his Flickr page. And notice the Sphinx kitten, which I really wanted to blur, but it kind of ruined the sphinxiness of the picture, so I had to leave it intact. But it goes further. We actually, at one point, started to hit a brick wall. We found all this data about their office, but we couldn't get into the profiles of any of our cybercriminals. Here comes the greatest lesson of cybersecurity and social media, taught to you by cybercriminals who don't want to be found, let alone the rest of us. Don't worry, that's normal, at least for the past 2 times. The 50% owner in the business that they ran, seriously, they called their business MobSoft. Do you think they knew? Did they have an evil layer? I don't know. Was a woman called Maria. And it turns out Maria is the wife of our cybercriminal. And it's kind of like she'd opened up her profile wide to anyone that wanted to see. By the end of the research, 27-page report all intact, these are photos of the cybercriminals on holiday. Notice we did blur the dolphin, species gap and all. Also, now this will only work with this audience, but it's amazing. I love this. This here is the office Christmas party for the cybercriminals. And notice in the second picture here, can you see what they're doing? It's a fishing trip. You couldn't write this stuff, could you? It's amazing. So this is what a cybercriminal gang looks like, and they teach us a very valuable lesson. I want to do one more thing. Is anyone bored? No, you're all okay? Okay, I'm just checking, because I could do something else or sing, maybe dance a little bit. Do look slightly like a clown today. Anyway, I wanted to make this personal. I brought along a fun device, which I've been running throughout the conference. This little device scans for wireless networks. An interesting thing you may not know, though, is when you're walking around the conference, you're all broadcasting the names of wireless networks you've previously connected to. This is usually where you just did it. Where's my phone? Turn it off. It's too late. You can't do it in your pocket. And it looks like you're enjoying my presentation far too much. Getting fired again. Anyway, so I've been scanning at the conference. Here are some statistics for you about you. I wanted to make this personal. Number one, this is my mobile device. You can see I was at TED, I stayed at Hyatt Long Beach. Pretty Fly for Wi-Fi is my home network name. Brilliant, if I must say so myself. Actually, some other favorites from the internet. We Can Hear You Having Sex. That's a good network name. Excellent in the hotel here, whoever's next to me. And Caitlin, Stop Using Our Internet, which I think is spectacular. I will note that the Europeans have a strange tendency to profanity in their naming of networks, even more than Asia. So without further ado, what do we know about you? Well, 9% of you have been to Starbucks recently, which is a travesty because the coffee is terrible. 31% of you we could link to a specific business. We know where you work or who you work with. 1,437 totally unique hotel names. We know where you stayed. We could plot a path around the globe. Here's the really scary one. I know where 117 of you live. Your name is so unique, we can find it at a specific position on the globe. Some of you use your names, James Lyne's iPhone, and about 1% of you swear. Some of them were really creative. I will share them at the bar later, probably a few drinks in. So something for you to think about. As we adopt new technology, smartphones, as we use all these fancy apps, are we trading off convenience, privacy, and security too much? Do we really understand what's happening beneath the covers in our fast-paced world of technology? I also want you to think about the future. How will we develop the talent pool to protect the next generation of devices? A stunning statistic from the UK. There's been a 60% reduction in people taking A-level and GCSE IT, the feeder subjects that lead to IT security. There are far fewer people entering this profession. Now, you're probably wondering what happened to that cybercriminal gang, right? I mean, we caught them. We know their names. We actually saw a blueprint of the nice house they built in Thailand. I have photos of their wives partying in Monaco. They're not in jail. Despite numerous international cyber conventions, laws remain national whilst the internet is borderless. They're out there somewhere because jurisdictions couldn't agree on the definition of cybercrime and what laws they'd broken. My closing message is this. You may hear about APTs and cyber war and all these exciting things from journalists, but remember, 99% of all of the things I've talked about, 99% of 250,000 pieces of malware every day happen because people fail to do the basics. Be a good net citizen. Make sure you've secured your Wi-Fi, particularly if you're in the room next door to me. I'm not going to tell you where I am. That would be silly. If you do have any questions, you want to see how much you'd expose in your mobile device, ping me a note. That's me on Twitter. That's my email address. I hope you found this presentation enlightening, aside from me breaking things. Thank you very much.